Welcome to Your Ultimate Life podcast, where we help you break free from mediocrity and create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Get your free video series at yourultimatelife.ca.
Hey there, welcome to Your Ultimate Life. Welcome to a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. This podcast where we do everything to provide you with the tools, knowledge, and information to create prosperity, to claim your life purpose, and to live every day with joy, dancing on the ceiling. So today I've got this lightning strike behind me in this purple clouds and all this stuff. And as usual, I've picked a background that has something to do with our topic today. Today's about creating serendipity. I want you to think about, do you know what serendipity is? I'm assuming you probably do. You can call things that happen, right? Sometimes they're a coincidence. A coincidence is a slightly unlikely event that happened, or two events that happened, meeting someone in a certain place. Oh, I was just thinking about you. Coincidence. Or, I was just thinking about you, and phone rings and someone calls you, or you call someone and they say that. Those are kinds of, you can call them a coinkydink, a coincidence, which is, something a little bit unusual that happened. There's lots of thoughts about coincidence. Some people say there are no accidents. I'm one of those. I think everything is or can be part of a divinely orchestrated tapestry that's the masterpiece of your life. Now, I'm not saying, the universe cares if I wear this green shirt today or a blue one. Maybe. But I'm not even thinking at that level of granularity. But there is way more granularity, I think, than I give normal thought to, or maybe you. So what is that granularity? Well, here's what I know from my experience. The divine, God, pays a lot more attention to the details of my life, my desires, my inclinations, my attempts, my intention than I do sometimes. I'll give you some examples. When I am lackadaisical in my creation effort, and we've had enough episodes on here. You are creating your life one moment at a time. Now remember, a moment is 8.64 seconds. I'll define that for you one more time. I've done that a few times. But, people say live in the moment. What the heck is that? How long is a moment? A billionth of a second? 1 second? 20 seconds? What? So I don't know. I've heard all kinds of definitions, but I created one that I've been using for several years that I like. It's kind of fun. And it's based on, some real numbers. So there's 60 seconds in a minute. There's 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day. If you multiply all those out, that's 86,400 seconds in one day. I decided rather arbitrarily that there should be 10,000 moments in a day, because if you're living in the moment, then each day has lots and lots of moments, right? But they can't be too long, because otherwise it doesn't feel like a moment. So if you divide 10,000 into 86.4, you get 8.64 seconds. 86,400 seconds divided by 10,000 moments in a day. So I use 8.64 seconds, and here's why. It's long enough to really get my teeth into a moment. 8.5 seconds, 8 2/3, whatever. But it's short enough to just be a moment. So it's arbitrary, but it's fun, and it gives me an anchor for a definition for a moment. I can live in the moment. This 8.64 seconds. What can I do in this 8.64 seconds? What can I create? So back to where we were before the definition, and that is we're creating our lives a moment at a time. And when I've been careless about that, and by careless, I mean, I get up, and I'll just start in the morning. I get up in the morning, and maybe you get up in the afternoon, but I get up in the morning and I don't have a real plan. I just sort of cruise through the day on autopilot. I do a couple things. I look at the phone. I don't take particular care about how I create my day. Well, that laziness, or lazy sounds pejorative, that lack of focus creates random outcomes. Sometimes they're fun and sometimes they're not. Often in that mode, I get to the end of a day and it's like, what did I do? What did I create? Did I waste a day? Now, I'm not saying not to relax. Uh, as I'm recording this, in a couple of days, all of us, Joy and I and Grandma and our Ukrainian family, we're going away for about 11 or 12 days. So we're going to be gone on vacation and we're going to have some fun. And so that's very carefully planned. I don't mean everything that we're doing. I can wake up and have today intentionally about relaxation. I'm going to lay in an ice bath. I do that every day now, 6 days a week. I am going to read a book that I want. I'm going to take a walk in a beautiful garden. I'm going to sit in the backyard with the dog and just meditate or relax. You know, that is a very intentional creation. And what I'm creating is space, because miracles happen in space. When I'm crowded and crammed, there isn't enough space to create miracles. So when I say being intentional, I don't want to confuse that with being either rigid or over planned, right? Overbooked. I'm talking about an intentional creation. So let's think about, I'm not much of a baker, but my mother used to bake bread. And in the process of baking bread, there's yeast and flour and water, and they do stuff, or she did stuff, right? And I remember walking in the kitchen on bread making days, and there would be a tub of bread dough, and she would usually make 8 or 9 or 10 loaves at a time worth of dough. And then we had these bread pans, and they'd go in the oven, and you could smell it all through the house. And it was wonderful, and everybody in our neighborhood and church loved my mother's wheat bread. Anyway, I would walk in the kitchen, and there would be a big tub of dough on the table. And over the top would be a tea towel or dish towel, a large towel, light and thin, kind of that thin cotton stuff. And what was going on? Well, the dough was raising. In other words, the yeast was taking action and causing bubbles, and the dough would raise and increase in volume. Well, if you try to hurry that, you can't. And so it would raise, and then she would knead it down and then raise again. And there would be 2 or 3 rounds of dough raising before she would, make the loaves and put them in the bread pans. And maybe you've seen similar things, or maybe you've done similar things. My point about that is there was nothing to crowd or cram that creation any faster. The yeast took the time it took to raise. That was it. And it had to sit there for an hour or whatever it was. And if you did it sooner, you wrecked it. So I'm not talking about in creating your ultimate life or creating serendipity, which I still am going to fully define in a minute. I'm not talking about being busy, frantic, buried, overwhelmed, or any of that. I'm talking about being intentional. So the waiting period with the bread was intentional. It took that long to raise, and then you got the product. So if you decide to spend a day or a week on the beach reading a book because you want to unwind, you want to breathe, that's fine. If you decide you're going to spend some time in creative meditation and you sit in a chair outside looking at trees, that's part of raising the yeast and has nothing to do with franticness or being overwhelmed. And you may be thinking at this point, I'm so busy, I don't have time to do that. That's a problem because miracles happen in space. So when I'm working with coaching clients, helping them create money, business, personal freedom, personal peace, health, relationships, growth, happiness, writing books, creating programs, whatever we're working on, part of this is I ask and require, if they're willing, to create space so that miracles can come. The voice of intuition is quiet. The voice of inspiration is quiet. So when you're intentionally creating, that means allowing space for miracles. Wow, what a thought, right? Okay, so you create your life every moment, and the better we get at knowing what the elements are to create the life we want, a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. And every time I say PPJ, purpose, prosperity, and joy, I'm hoping that you're thinking your words. Your words. Maybe it's rich, maybe it's freedom, maybe it's happiness, whatever. Mine is encapsulated in purpose, prosperity, and joy. So use your words. Do you know what your elements are? Do you know what needs to happen? What yeast you need and how long it needs to raise? Do you know what the steps are to create your ultimate life? If you don't, I'd like to talk with you, because helping people find and execute those steps is what I do. And that's all I do. I'm 100% focused on that. Except when I'm busy doing my own creative work, writing books, doing music, that kind of thing. But other than that, I'm focused on you. And my goal this year is 250 million people, and that includes you. Y-O-U, you. All right. So as we go about our lives creating, like I said, if we do it in a lackadaisical way, then we get random results. If we're more intentional with the space and the busy and the activities and things we say no to, and we create on purpose, we get much better results. In that process, actually in both processes, whether you're lackadaisical or structured, focused, there's something called serendipity, which is a cut above coincidence. Coincidence is, things that are sort of random things that happen. It's like, that's interesting. Serendipity has a positive happiness, a bug of happy in it, right? There's a big cup of happy. And that means good things that randomly or seemingly randomly appear. Good thing, the right thing at the right time, the right person, all that kind of stuff. I mentioned in the last episode about us buying a car, and that was a big stroke of serendipity. We're leaving on vacation in a couple of days. We were going to rent a big vehicle. Joy happened to read an article about used cars and used car prices. She went and looked online, and suddenly this one vehicle popped up and happened to be near us, and it happened to be very low mileage, 1 year old, really good price, all that. That's serendipity. Now, today, what I want to talk about is creating serendipity. Creating. Because it's easy to say, well, there's no accidents, and assign the motive force, the moving cause of the no accidents or the serendipity or the coincidence to someone else. God did this, or some random thing did this very cool thing that happened to me. What if, and this is the thought today, what if you can create serendipity? A confluence of positive events that moves you forward in whatever direction you're going, like riding your bike with the wind at your back, or sailing with the wind in your sails going in the direction you want, right? What if you can create that? I want you to just think about goals that you have, that you're trying to accomplish. I work with a lot of people on their businesses, getting clients and creating funnels and creating content and writing books and even creating PTACs, personal truth documents. Several clients right now that are hard and fast in the middle of creating that life constitution, because that's about picking purpose and declaring who you are as a divine being and that sort of stuff. And they're in the middle of that and they're focused, but there's a lot of work and there's a lot of activity involved. So what if you intentionally can create those confluences of good fortune? We already say, well, there's no accidents, but we often, like I said, assign the moving cause to outside of us. And I'm not saying the divine can't favor us with good fortune anytime, and the random things can happen. I'm not saying that can't happen, and they can happen and still have it still be true that everything happens on purpose. There's no accidents. But I'm talking very specifically about your ability in mind to create these confluences of good events. So let's talk about what I think, what I've experienced are the requirements to have serendipity, to create serendipity. I'm going to use several examples, and one of them is that car we just bought. Unbelievable deal, low mileage, 1 year old, tricked out with everything. 2 days before we would have had to spend a couple $1,000s to rent a large vehicle because we don't have one big enough to move everybody the distance we're going to drive and all that stuff. And then this shows up. So we get to buy it, screaming deal, etc. And that's not even the end of the story. There was a whole bunch of stuff that happened literally between last night and even today, as I record this, that are beneficial events that are just continuing evidences of this massive piece of serendipity. What do you do to create that? Well, the first thing I want to talk about is intuition. Intuition is a feeling that you should do something, right? You just know, I need to do that. Maybe, you think, well, your subconscious is doing some internal analysis and logic dictates, even though I can't quite follow the thread, that the best course of action is this. And that's trying to reduce it all to our own logic and reasoning, including our mighty subconscious mind, and that is being arrogant as hell. You and I have not anywhere near enough brains to control anything to create real serendipity by ourselves without involving the forces of the universe. You know what's cool? You have access to those forces. Intuition is your divine self. Some say your soul's located between your heart and your spine. Others say that the connection to the divine is in the third eye, the pineal gland, wherever it is. You, through your intuition, have access to higher consciousness. So you can argue with me if you want, but let's just go down that road for a minute. If you have access to higher consciousness, then it makes sense to cultivate that communication path. It makes sense to make sure it's open, to make sure you're listening, right? And you hear and you learn to recognize the voice of intuition. Because we got lots of other voices going on in our head. Negative voices, naysayers, right? The inner critic. Oh, you can't do that. No, that won't never work. Oh, you failed last time. You know those voices, right? Well, there is another voice, a positive voice, a voice of intuition, of encouragement, of growth, and of opportunity. The difficulty is that voice is almost always way softer than the strident voices of failure, fear of being not good enough, being laughed at, all the things that keep us from doing things that we have a desire to do. So, since you have a connection to the divine, it makes perfect sense to cultivate that connection. So what do you do to cultivate that connection? Well, I'm going to tell you what I do and have done. I'm going to tell you what many others have done. I'm not going to pretend this is the only way or the right way, whatever that means. I'm going to tell you this works. It's reliable and it's powerful. That's what I know. And that is by exercising that time to be quiet, to be still, and put all other busyness out of your head and just listen. Some call that meditation. Now, meditation isn't sitting in a pretzel pose and saying certain words. You can do that if you want, but meditation is three things. Slow down enough to be right where you are, here, now, not thinking about anything else or any other time, present or future, or past or future, but only the present. Sorry. Mix that up. The second thing is be still enough. After you slow down, be still enough to notice what is there. So I'll give you an example. If you sit by a lake, and maybe you've had the opportunity to do this, and there's absolutely no wind and no disturbance in the lake, it gets very still. And it is so reflective that the reflection in the lake of the trees, perhaps on the shore, or the sky and the clouds, is perfect. Like you almost can't tell the difference. I have a picture in my picture gallery of a bridge, a stone bridge that's over a pool of water. And when you take a picture in a certain place and the water is completely still, you can't tell if it's upside down or, which is the bridge and which is the reflection. That is stillness. And be still enough to notice what is there means this. After you slow down, let's use the lake as an example, completely slow your body down. You take a relaxed sit on a rock or a blanket at the edge of the lake and completely empty your mind. When your mind is that empty, and by empty, I don't mean you fight with thoughts, just let them go. But this isn't an episode on how to meditate. We'll do that another time. But learn to do that. Learn to be still. Now, be still enough simply means Let's say you're there and you finally slowed your mind and your body down and you look at the lake. When you do that, you start noticing things, shapes of the clouds, the other shore, an animal moving on the other shore, stuff you absolutely would not have been able to see or notice until you slowed down. So step one, slow down enough to be where you are. Step two is be still enough to notice what is there. And step three is trust that what comes to you is truth. Because in that space of stillness, ideas and thoughts come to you that are different. They feel different. To me, they feel sparkly. They're like almost a different color, and they feel infused with creative energy. And I know those are intuition thoughts from the divine, higher self, and so forth. So those are the 3 steps. You want to cultivate your intuition? That's it. Take time every single day, no matter what. 5 minutes at first at a time, then 10, then 15. I spend 2.5 hours in the morning with my morning ritual, and people say, I don't have time. I can promise you it creates time. It creates 5 hours for me of productivity more during the day than I had. No second guessing, no frustration, no inner critic, all that stuff's gone. So we'll do that in a podcast on the benefits of meditation and more about specifically how to do that. But that's how you cultivate your intuition. The second piece of cultivating your intuition is action. When you get those thoughts, the third part of meditation, trust what comes to you is truth. Start acting immediately without delay. Immediately and fearlessly. Just do it. Make the phone call. Send the text. Do the thing. Have the difficult conversation. Do the thing that comes to you. In the example of this car, Joyce sent me the link in Skype. That's how we communicate. Her office is upstairs and mine's downstairs. So I got a Skype ding and I looked at it and there was this car. And we've been looking at this for a year. So I wasn't too anything. But I opened it up and I saw it and I saw what it was and I saw the mileage and the year and all the pictures of the outside and the inside. And all of a sudden, this intuition was coming to me, just go buy it. And I thought, well, just go buy it. I've learned now to not argue. So I just did. We just drove over there last night and drove it around, bought it. Perfect serendipity, but it came because of cultivated intuition and of listening to it. All right. Step 2 for creating serendipity is gratitude. Gratitude is probably the most elevating of human emotion. When we live in deep gratitude for everything that we are and that we have, there's nothing like it. It elevates your spirit. It elevates your intelligence. You're more intelligent when you're feeling grateful. You're more capable. Your skills go up. Your intelligence goes up. Your ability goes up. Right? There's so many positive things to a choice to live in gratitude. One of the habits I developed to do that was simply by saying thank you to everything. So in the process of the serendipity about the car, and that's just the example I'm using, I've got dozens, it was to say thank you every step. Thanks for this. Thanks for that. The universe, God, just thank you. Experiencing the neurochemistry of gratitude. Of wonder, of awe, of excitement. Wow. What a thing. I can't hardly believe, that feeling. And I just swam in it and soaked in it and cherished it. And like I said, there's been 5 or 6 other things that have happened since last night, today already, that have moved it forward. Right? Because we need it right now because we're leaving the day after tomorrow. So gratitude is a high-powered accelerator for serendipity. Developing gratitude. I'll give you one exercise to do that. And that is, some people, do a rampage of appreciation, which is like listing 50 things you're grateful for. I'm not giving you advice, but I am. Don't do that. Instead, pick one thing and think about that thing, your gratitude for it, and continue doing it until the chemistry of gratitude, that feeling, of gratitude just pours over you, penetrates through you, and you're experiencing deep gratitude. And then say it to the universe, to a person, if that's appropriate. doing that every day for one thing, maybe two, has a much deeper and more profound effect on living in an attitude of gratitude, to use a cliche, but living in a space of a constant grateful mindset than anything else I have discovered. So that's one exercise to help you get into a habit of being in gratitude. Another thing being in gratitude does is it prevents us from complaining. You can't feel deep gratitude and be complaining at the same time. You can't. The energies are opposite, polar opposites, because complaining comes from the energy of lack, the feeling of lack. Gratitude comes from another place, a completely different space. The next thing I want to talk about in creating serendipity is the feeling and knowledge of abundance. Abundance. There is enough. You have enough. I have enough. That doesn't mean I don't have goals. I have big, hairy goals. But I'm not frantic. I'm not frustrated. And I'm working on them with gratitude, listening to intuition all day, every day, because I've developed it exactly like I'm describing to you. And the results are miraculous. I live the ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy. And then I feel driven to help 250 million. You just have that too, that perpetual, just amazing, over-the-top joy, which I experience. And yes, I know my wife's joy, and I get to live with her and love her all the time. So abundance is a mindset. It's like pessimism and optimism. Optimism is looking at a situation and saying, there's got to be a way. Pessimism is looking at a situation and saying, I'm screwed. There's no way. That's a powerful description. Abundance is looking at a situation or life or a given day, even if there's things going on that aren't what you wanted, and saying, there's something to learn here. This is positive, and I'm going to make it positive. I'm going to extract growth from every situation, even if it's not what I wanted. Oh, crap. Even that, I'm going to extract growth from it. It's one of my PTAC sayings. I am that I expect and extract growth from every situation. So I expect it and I extract it. I find it. It's like digging in the pile of horse poop. There's a pony in here somewhere. All right. Abundance is one mindset. Lack is the other one, where we focus on what we don't have. I don't have enough of this. This is in the way. This is wrong. This isn't happening. Crap. That'll never work out for me. And on and on and on. So you know the difference. Just even describing it creates completely different energy. So abundance is a choice. I live in abundance all the time, even when I don't have what I want. And even when the prospect of getting what I want is microscopic. The last piece that I want to talk about in creating serendipity is what I call sacred exchange. Sacred exchange is the idea that whether we're exchanging words, glances, money for some product or service, or anything else, that exchange can be special. It can be sacred. It is an exchange where I give you or you give me energy, accumulated energy, perhaps in the form of money, perhaps in the form of barter or whatever, but you give me something you have created, and I give you something I have created. And that's true even if it's just language. One of the things I love doing in this idea of sacred exchange is to look right in your eyes and tell you, I love you. I say that with truth and honesty because I have the feeling of love welling in me all the time toward you, even though I'm looking into the camera. I'm looking in your eyes, virtually, and loving you. You're a divine being. You have infinite gifts and talents. I want to be with you. I want to see you. I want to behold your divine nature and gifts with awe and wonder as a fellow being. I love meeting people. It's a beautiful thing. And when I think on purpose that every exchange that I do, however brief, is a sacred thing, then it makes me love the other person more. It makes me more elevated in my own heart. I feel more excited. I feel more alive. I feel more connected. And I do everything I can to make you feel more accepted, honored, acknowledged, loved, alive. And so to me, there's no casual things. And I wouldn't even pretend to be perfect at that, but that's what I declare and that's what I do on purpose. So that our moments of exchange are beautiful. They're sacred, they're precious. Now, I can tell you this collection of things: developing your intuition, choosing to live and create gratitude, reveling in the abundance of the universe, and then believing and creating a sacred exchange have created serendipity in my life beyond my ability to describe. And this little thing last night, today, is another manifestation of hundreds that have happened in the last weeks and months. I can make you a sacred promise. You can create it too, because I'm not special. I'm just putting in that kind of work, and I've helped others do the same. My last invitation is for you to go to www.yourultimatelife.ca and get the free stuff I have for you there. It'll change your life. You'll make more money, you'll be happier, and you'll be able to do stuff today you don't believe you can do. I invite you to connect. I invite you to come and have a chat. Let's talk. Let's find out what your greatest gifts are. And if I can help you, I will. I love serving and getting to know you, and reaffirming in every opportunity that you have both the right and the ability to create and live your ultimate life.
Open your heart and this time around,
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope that you take it deeply into your heart and decide for yourself how you can create anything you desire. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends. As always, we'd love to hear your feedback and topic suggestions. Until tomorrow, this is Your Ultimate Life with host Kellen Flukiger.
stand with your heart in the sky and your